Hi, I'm Jake Deffinbaugh, and welcome to Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show, a podcast where me and my friends talk about nostalgic moments and pop culture from our childhoods. We interview people such as actors, producers, composers, puppeteers, and more. We'll be sharing our favorite memories, talk about behind-the-scenes moments, and so much more. I'm your host, Jake Deffinbaugh, and welcome to this Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show episode.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show. My name is Matt Bingle, and I'm Marty Monster, and we've got a really big show. Before we get to that, I want to introduce our co-hosts, Jake Deffinbaugh, of course, Chris Bixby, and Wyatt McCullough. How are you guys doing?
We are good.
Amazing.
Good.
Way better than Jake.
Awesome.
Matt, I'm kind of curious. Who we got this time?
Yeah.
This week, we have, in my opinion, probably one of the biggest guests we've had on our show in quite some time. Both children and adults alike have seen her work for children. She's the current puppeteer of Prairie Dawn, among many others on Sesame Street, where she's been performing since 1993. Long time. She's also the puppeteer of Duck, Duck, and Harriet Elizabeth Carroll's on the hit PBS series Don Quixote. She's also the puppeteer of Cody in the Apple TV series Helpsters, and the spinoff Helpsters Help You. For adults, she was the original puppeteer of Kate Monster and Lucy the Slut in the Tony Award-winning musical Avenue Q. Yep.
There you go. You get the book.
Nice.
She's here. We are very delighted, thrilled, and honored to have her on. Please welcome the lovely and talented Tony Award nominee, Stephanie DeBruzzo. Welcome, Stephanie.
Welcome.
Hi, fellas. How y'all
That's the
doing?
best introduction.
We are great.
We're doing great.
That's
That was
introduction.
way better than Jake.
That's how you do an introduction. Yeah.
Do it more often.
First question we have is, you've been doing puppeteering for a long time, and you've been an actor as well.
Yeah.
What did you do before puppetry and acting?
I mean, I was in high school and college.
There you go.
I was always performing, even when I was in elementary school, whenever I could, as much as I could. If it wasn't, singing in school choir or church choir or, readers theater in the library or wherever I could. And then in high school, I did quite a bit of theater and forensic speech and debate and girls barbershop quartet and the school choir and all these, wherever I could perform, I would. Puppetry didn't occur to me as any sort of viable performance route until college. And that's just simply because, obviously this was long before the internet.
Yeah.
And all I had remembered about, I grew up with Sesame Street, but I was watching it as a kid, and then I hadn't seen it for a really long time, except maybe when I was babysitting. So I wasn't looking at credits. I wasn't watching Sesame Street through the eyes of a performer. But then when I was in college, that's when I realized, oh, wow, this is something that people do, and I think I can do that. So, I can't remember a time where I wasn't trying to be a performer in one way or the other.
Nice. So, another question, and this is kind of also about like before, you became a puppeteer and actor. So, what type of things did you grow up with? Because I know you just mentioned you grew up watching Sesame Street, but were there any other things that you grew up watching?
I was real lucky, I was born in 1971. I can't be shy about that. And I'm old enough to be all your mothers. So anyway, yeah, it's true. So I really feel like that was a great era for children's programming that wasn't rinky-dink in any way. I mean, I was growing up watching Schoolhouse Rock with some of the greatest music
show
ever. I mean, I was listening to Bob Dorough and Blossom Dearie and Jack Sheldon, and I didn't know their names. It was such good music. I loved Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood as a kid. I'm listening to Johnny Costa and his combo doing live jazz music every day on that show. Sesame Street, I'm listening to Joe Raposo and Jeff Moss. I'm listening to Toots Thielman's fantastic harmonica. It was the era. I didn't have this record as a kid, but I heard it probably when I was in the third grade. Free to Be You and Me, where you had Stephen Lawrence, and you had Stephen Lawrence doing the music for that, and Oh god, and then the Muppet Show.
Yes.
And then Warner Brothers cartoons. I was a big Bugs Bunny cartoon fan. So you've got Carl Stalling, and then all of these standards, you know, these Warner Brothers standards. I remember, this is a bit of a tangent. And then there were other shows that maybe weren't as good, but they still provided a bit of a base. I remember the Casper the Friendly Ghost Show.
Yeah.
And that was full of the Harvey. Yeah, that was in the Harvey thing where you had Baby Huey. And then they had this thing. It was Follow the Bouncing Ball. And I guess it was like the sing-along thing, right?
Yeah.
That's the first time I ever heard Give My Regards to Broadway.
Oh, wow.
And years later, when I was still in Avenue Q, they have a benefit Broadway on Broadway. And at the end, everybody, all the people in the show get together and sing Give My Regards to Broadway. This was 2005, and there were a lot of people who'd never heard the song before. Like, you don't remember Follow the Bouncing Ball? You've never seen Yankee Doodle Dandy? But anyway, so, we didn't grow up with cable, but network TV, all this stuff was available between public television and network TV. I didn't have a VCR until we had a beta VCR in 1984, but we didn't have a VHS until I graduated from high school. So stuff that was available, and also what I also loved, anytime Mary Poppins was in re-release at like the Dollar Theater or something, I had the soundtrack on vinyl, and it was the fold-out. And I would just listen to that constantly. I knew every diphthong of Julie Andrews' singing voice. And then like the Carpenters, Karen Carpenter, her voice. I learned to sing. I really learned to sing from Sesame Street albums and Karen Carpenter and Julie Andrews. So that's a slice of my early childhood. And then later, sitcoms. Like just... the cheesy ones, the bad ones, the good ones, because that's all that was available. But man, there's some pretty great performers out there. Stephen Gross on Family Ties is a really underrated actor. I just learned so much watching great character actors on sitcoms.
And then, of course, the recently passed Bob Saget.
Yeah.
Full House.
Yeah. I didn't grow up so much with Bob Saget because that was when I was in late high school and college. But Peter Scolari on Newhart, John Larroquette on Night Court, everyone on, I've actually, all the actors on Night Court, all the actors on Family, like the NBC in the early 80s was very big, but then also the late 70s, watching, Robert Guillaume in Soap and Benson. Oh, wow. Just really great performers, and Richard Mulligan on Soap. I mean, everyone on Soap, Billy Crystal, Richard Mulligan, Robert Mandan. Catherine Hellman, and I'm really lucky that I didn't have to shell out a lot of money for streaming to watch, good performances.
So true.
Yeah, and I love when that conversation we just had about like early childhood. For me, I think. Well, really, how I got introduced to most of the puppetry stuff, like Sesame and the Muppets, was Bear in the Big Blue House. Which
yes,
it's
one
of my favorite shows.
Being a '90s kid, growing up with this stuff and seeing how they do it, made me want to get into it. Same with Matt here, because Matt inspired me.
Right.
And I know we'll bring it up later. But you mentioned vinyls. Matt actually has one of the Sesame Street vinyls.
Actually, we have a couple of them. Of them. These are old, like 70s old. But we'll bring them out later. Yeah, we'll definitely do that.
No, I loved Bert and Ernie Sing Along. That was one of my favorite.
That's
Sesame
one we
albums.
have.
Yes.
Grab it.
That's
you can see it.
I see it back there.
That's her favorite. That's my neck.
You can see Rudy also.
I see Rudy. That's a nice Rudy plush. Frankie Cordero will be very happy.
Yeah.
My buddy Frankie. He's great.
Friend of his gave that to him for his birthday about a month ago. Yeah.
Oh,
really
nice.
Sweet. Yeah.
But also, I see Winnie the Pooh behind Jake, and I grew up with the Pooh cartoons because they were still running Wonderful World of Disney when I was growing up too. So you'd see some really fun stuff on that as well. And again, Sherman Brothers. I grew up with the Sherman Brothers.
Original singer. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I feel really fortunate to have been able to grow up at the time that I did, and even if I didn't know I was being exposed to good stuff, it just sort of roots in you and stays with you for a really long time.
Oh yeah,
that is true. That is true.
Yeah, that's true. What is something from your past that you wish you could go revisit?
revisit, like work on, or revisit just watch? Because I watch that stuff still. I mean, look at HBO Max has an amazing Warner Brothers library on it.
Yeah.
And they put out some great Blu-rays.
That's how I found the Scooby-Doo Puppet Special, which you did the voice for, which is amazing.
Wait, well, which one? I'm sorry, I missed. Which one?
The Scooby-Doo Puppet Special was on HBO Max.
Oh.
I found it.
Yeah. That was a lot of fun. That was very fortunate. We had, I think, initially hoped that would become a series, but
it sucks that it failed.
Yeah.
No. But we were happy to work on it. It was a great combination. We were all really nostalgic for Scooby. We'd all grown up with it.
Right.
Me too. I grew up in the '90s, watching him.
It's actually a little bit of Scooby Doo too.
Yeah, and it was really fun to be able to also sort of with the Velma that I played, because her design was based on Pup Called Scooby Doo.
Yeah.
So I sort of made the voice not quite current, not quite classic Velma and not quite Pup Velma.
Yeah.
So I like being able to play the amalgam of that. And then what I also, the Rudmans were really great about, Spiffy Pictures produced the series. They were great. I asked them, because the Velma had a blink mechanism. And I said, are you using the Hanna-Barbera sound effects? And they said, yeah. I said, so... Because sometimes when you have a blink mechanism, people like to just blink randomly like a human. Yes. And I wanted to blink like the cartoons, where it would amplify. Because then you'd hear the blink. So it would be, you'd say something and blink, blink. And when you can hear the blink, then you have to be careful about, then it becomes a musical journey. So, and then also I said, are you going to have her walk the way she did in the animation? Because in the animated series, she just sort of glided and her feet went really fast. Yeah. And they said, we can absolutely do that. So it was normally with puppetry, we're trying to work so hard to do things that work in puppet land, but on this, we were sort of marrying elements of animation and puppetry. It was a lot of fun.
So since we talked a little bit about how you loved Schoolhouse Rock, I'm very curious. Do you have a favorite song?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Oh, there's a lot of them. I love Suffer Until Suffrage.
Yeah.
I love singing Interplanet Janet. I've sung
I love that
a couple of concerts. It's a great Lynn Ahrens. Lynn Ahrens went on to write so many great musicals, including Ragtime, and so it's amazing to think of. It's amazing to think of the fact that was the first thing she ever wrote music for was Schoolhouse Rock. I think her first song was Noun As a Person, Place, or Thing, and that's her voice singing it on the recording. I mean, obviously I love Just a Bill. I love anything Blossom Dearie did. You Figure Eight and Unpack Your Adjectives. Is fantastic. And Bob DeRoe just singing 3 is a Magic Number is such a sweet, simple, lovely song. And Verb, that's what's happening. I love the funky stuff.
Oh my God.
It's really not a bad one.
Those two are good songs too.
Yeah. And then the
Conjunction Junction, those are all
That's
good.
also a great one. But the visual style too of all of them is so great. It's very evocative of the old Sesame Street animations, which I also really, you listen to the music and then Pointer Sisters are singing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and then Grace Slick sings 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I mean, that's Grace Slick is singing on Sesame Street, and you don't know that as a kid until later on when it becomes trivia.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, we didn't have a lot of records in my house. It was just the radio. We had a few, but not much. And so that musical education, without knowing what it was just so good. Such good stuff. And so many really, at that point, you had a lot of really bold and brave experimental choices happening. You had a lot of experimental animation happening. You had a lot of experimental music happening, and the music on children's television was finally starting to reflect the music of the time.
Yeah.
Yes. And Stevie Wonder, when he did Superstition, he just did Superstition. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
The new Sesame Street brought back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 pentatonics, which is amazing.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
That insert is great, where they go through all those songs. It really well done. Music is such a strong part of Sesame Street's history, and it's always great to do. the show being shorter now, there are fewer opportunities to get to sing, but man, that's just the most fun. It's the most fun in the world to like do a big musical insert or just to sing is just fantastic.
Yeah. So I think we asked this a little bit, but is there something from like the past that you've worked on or like in general that you wish you could revisit?
Oh, that I've worked on that I wish I could like keep working on? I really loved the show Oobi.
Yes. Oobi was amazing.
So I played Uma on Oobi, and I it was a challenging show. You know, you only have your hand, and Uma blind. Uma not have eyes.
God!
What happened? What? Uma confused. Uma confused. What this? What the?
Oh my gosh. And Legacy also.
You know, so you don't have. If we wanted to pick up a prop, you know, you would just pick up with your hand, and if you wanted to, or like, you know, picking up a little suitcase with my pinky, you're very exposed. I mean, the puppetry has to be. You don't have the luxury of a puppet hiding your sins, as it were. But I love the simplicity of it, and I instantly fell in love with the character of Uma. I love a character who is young and naive, and you know, she's 3. Well, I think she was supposed to be 3.
Yeah.
And she thinks she knows everything. I mean, that's what I always love about a character, is a character who just thinks they know it all. At that age, you can read, you can talk, you're starting to read, you can talk, you can walk. The world is like, hey, I'm an expert. And I love playing that element of Uma's confidence and naivete. And I enjoyed working on, especially the first season of the Wubbulous World of Dr. Seuss. Because I loved how many characters I got to play. It was a great experience for me, and you know, the first season we were doing shows that were for a slightly older audience, so we could go broader with the characters. And I just loved the variety, that it wasn't just, you know, with puppetry, with preschool puppetry, you wind up playing a lot of the same little girls over and over again. And with Seuss, I got to play everything, you know, every age, every type. And that was a lot of fun. It was only my third year, or third or fourth year with the company, or at least, you know, having been in the talent pool. You know, we're all still just freelancing. So I got really lucky to get that gig. And I'm trying to think, if you're talking about like a long time ago, right? Yeah, I think those are two that were really special and important jobs for me at the time. I mean, I could play. It's so easy to jump into Uma. The sad thing is, you know, my hand physically looks older, so I would not be able to play her anymore.
This is a question.
Have age spot.
This is a question I know Chris and I are dying to know. You're talking about playing. There's a certain video, Elmo Palooza. Do you know who did you play in that video?
Well, there were, you know, Elmo Palooza has a lot of musical pieces. So I was in Caribbean Amphibian with Jimmy Buffett. I was one of the frogs there, which was was great. He was a lot of fun. And then in the big ending, the big finale with Jon Stewart. I was doubling Zoe in the back while Fran was doing Prairie up front. And I want to say there was another bit, but I can't remember off the top of my head. You know, I was doing the second season of Seuss while Elmo Palooza was shooting, so I wasn't available to do everything. And also I was still relatively new. I was not the first person that they called for things. So I was lucky to be a part of it. I remember we shot it in 98. And I remember there were people who didn't know who Jon Stewart was at the time. Because it was before Daily Show, but he had already done his talk shows and his great arc on the Larry Sanders Show, and so I'm trying to explain to people, no, this is a big deal, this guy. And then he became Jon Stewart.
So again, since we talked about like stuff from our past, like well, what are your thoughts about like certain things from the past just being kind of simplified now?
You know, it's interesting. Vinyl has come back
Yeah.
And Polaroids
Yeah.
have come back. So
interesting.
I'd be really curious to see if, especially, you know, and I say this knowing how old it makes me sound, your generation, if your generation isn't going to have something to do with saving physical media to some degree. I just read an article in The City. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the old Kim's Video that was in Manhattan for a long time. This was a great old, you know, it was a VHS rental place, and they closed I don't remember the exact timeline, about a decade ago, and the collection was moved to a university, I think, in Italy. Well, it's coming back to the city, and it's going to be available for people to rent these old movies that are out of print. And aren't, you know, I think that people have a misconception about the internet. They think that, well, everything is available, and it's not true. There's a lot of stuff that's out of print. Right. There are even contemporary movies that are not available anywhere for streaming. And some of them are out of print on disc. Movies from just 20 years ago are hard to find. So I think once people realize the things that are missing, I mean, and I think you can see that in some of the places that do retrospectives, you know, museums, I think, that show movies, you know, in a well-curated way, do relatively well because they're showing things that aren't necessarily available. I think the other thing about streaming that people really miss the boat on is curation. Yeah. It's hard to browse if you don't know what you're looking for. So you kind of need guidance. You need someone to tell you, and an algorithm's not going to do it. Netflix does not know me, and the algorithm is not always helpful. Most of the things I've found that I've really liked have been through just clicking and clicking and clicking and clicking and clicking, or reading a review of something and seeking it out and having to like write it down. Yeah. Okay, this, and it's on Hulu, and it's blah blah blah, and this is the name of it.
Yeah.
It's really, it makes it, I think, harder. So I'm hoping that someone can fill in and find a way to, I don't know, streamline it somehow. There's a lot of stuff out there, but not everything. And then when things are out there, as with the Muppet Show and other things, there are music rights. But then there are great shows that sort of never see the light of day outside of syndication reruns because of music licenses. I don't know if you remember, in the case of WKRP in Cincinnati, you all are too young to remember that show, but the first season of it was put out and they replaced all the music with like this really low rent temp music. And I'm talking about actual songs, pop songs. That were going to be too expensive to license. So then Shout Factory came in and did a better collection. I think there were still a couple things they couldn't license, but it makes a difference. Freaks and Geeks, if it wasn't for Shout Factory putting that out at a higher price point, that would have been a hard show to license. But then there are a couple of shows. There was a show from 1991 called Brooklyn Bridge. It was a Gary David Goldberg show. And I only saw it because they reran it on Bravo in the early 90s. It was a really fantastic show. And Gary David Goldberg, throughout his entire life, tried to get it put out on DVD. And, you know, for whatever reason, people think, oh, well, this, you know, people will buy it at this price point, but not this price point. And the music will cost us this, so we don't want to put it out at all because we can't sell it for that. There's some really good stuff out there that will remain either buried or bootlegged. And so but there's so much content. So, you know, there are a lot of things going on in the world right now, and I know this is not our biggest problem, but hopefully someone will get someone to listen and say, look, the stuff has value. It belongs somewhere. But that doesn't mean that, like, it doesn't mean that people have the right to view anything by any means necessary. Craig and I, my husband Craig Shemin and I, did a screening right before the pandemic of some rarities of Sesame Street, and we showed clips from the Margaret Hamilton episode of Sesame Street. And we begged people, because we almost weren't going to get permission to show it, and we begged people. Craig had just had open heart surgery months earlier. This was his first appearance back. We begged people, please do not bootleg us. This is special. This is for us. This is why we do this. And if this gets out there, my job could certainly be in jeopardy. Our ability to host future screenings could be in jeopardy. And wouldn't you know it, someone bootlegged it and felt like they had the right to do it. Yeah. And, you know, no. And we begged you and we asked you. And I said, please, my husband actually said, please don't put me in the hospital again. And we went through a lot. We went through a lot finding out, dealing with Internet Archive. And, you know, thankfully, well, I can't speak to ramifications of it because it's nothing I want to talk about right now. But what I will say is, I'd like to hope that, well, it's like people who get angry when they share a password with someone and then Netflix decides to take it away. Content isn't free. Yeah, you know, exactly. People spend a lot of time and money to make these things. Game of Thrones does not happen in a vacuum, and it doesn't happen on a discount. Yeah, actors get paid, artisans get paid. That money has to come from somewhere, and I think people got into a habit of everything being online costing nothing. And so I think we're trying to, like, you know, the industry is trying to rein that in a little bit more because things did used to be free for a really long time. And I mean, you look at the rise of Napster in the late 90s, I think that's where a lot of it started. No one wants to pay for content. No one wants to pay for music. Why should I pay for music when, and you know, now you have Spotify paying artists 1/100th of a penny per stream. Artists have to make a living. We're people. We have bills too. People think that just because you know someone's name recognition is not a blank check. Right. It doesn't. Name recognition does not pay the bills. When I do a job, and that's why I won't work non-union. The work that I do, and it's not because I'm a snob, and it's because the work that I do has to be protected. Yeah. I have breaks and reasonable hours put in and 12-hour turnaround and also a residual structure. And that varies from project to project. But there are reasons why things cost. And I think we've lost the ability to recognize what things actually cost. And so, I don't know, that's my little diatribe on the universe owes you nothing as far as what you feel you should be. And I know people are probably going to complain about that, but
it's fine.
There are like, for example, with the Margaret Hamilton thing, there were reasons why Sesame Street did not want that out there. They didn't want it. And there are reasons why certain companies don't want things out there, just for reasons that you can't even begin to understand. So I'd like to hope that people can be a little more understanding in life moving forward. Because again, there are bigger problems in the world. See, this is when I start coming off like one of your moms.
That's fine.
I'm talking mom-like.
Yeah, and about the streaming thing, I am happy though that there are things like Disney Plus and Paramount Plus where a lot of those things are archived that haven't, and a lot of the things haven't been on the air, or haven't been shown in a very long time. Like a good example is another show that you worked on, the Book of Pooh.
Which I know
really
Chris has a question about it. I'm kind of curious about it as well.
Yeah, so I heard this thing about like the puppets from the show being like lost in a fire or something. Is that true or?
Don't know anything about that at all. I'm sorry. I have no answers for you. This is the first time hearing about that.
I feel like it might have been a rumor, but I'm sure.
I don't know. Fires happen. I mean, it happened at Aardman years ago, so goodness knows it's possible.
I could probably take a guess and say that a lot of the puppets over time have kind of deteriorated.
Yeah. Well, that's true. All puppets, or most puppets made out of certain materials, yes, they become what we call toasty, which means the foam breaks down into they look like toast crumbs.
Yeah, I remember seeing a picture on your Twitter about the Grizzy puppet. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
She was absolutely toast inside. That tends to happen after about 15-ish years. Sometimes it can happen earlier, depending on what kind of foam. First puppets I ever built, I couldn't afford good foam like that. I built one of my early puppets out of carpet padding.
Oh, wow.
Actually, and he's still holding up great. Carpet padding covered with like sweatshirt fleece. It's not a pretty puppet, but it's not toasty. So
there you go. I guess on this topic of streaming and DVDs and all that, Jakey, I think you should bring up that one thing that that one DVD that she actually was a part of that you have, and it's not the Book of Pooh one. You know what the We Are Family DVD.
Oh yeah.
Bring that up.
Yeah.
Because he has it.
Mm-hmm.
You do? Yes. I don't even remember that.
Look,
wow. I don't think I've ever seen that DVD.
It lists you as a puppeteer on it.
Sure. Well,
Great
all of the kids
cooperation.
shows after September 11th came together through Nile Rodgers' We Are Family
Thanks to Christopher Surf.
Foundation.
Yeah, thanks to Christopher Surf.
Christopher
Surf.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Who for those listening and watching don't know, he wrote just a ton of wonderful songs for Sesame, and he also created Between the Lions.
Yes.
And he's Little Chrissy. He's Little Chrissy.
Yes.
Bring him back.
He sang Born to Add. I love Little Chrissy.
That's a character we need back on the show at some stage.
Yeah. I love Chris Surf. But Nile Rodgers. I remember I was doing background work on Bear, and Nile Rodgers came to the set, and I mean,
wow.
Nile Rodgers is a legend, a legendary musician who's worked with everyone at the time. And this was the turn of the century, and VH1 was showing a lot of behind the music documentaries, and I felt like Nile Rodgers was on every single one of them, because in one way or another he produced so many artists that you wouldn't think about. So I got his autograph. But so there was one great day at Sesame where we were all at Kaufman Astoria Studios, and we had the Sesame characters and the Bear in the Big Blue House characters and the Between the Lions characters all on the set at the same time.
Like, that is just incredible.
Yeah. It was Grubble and all the puppeteers. So many puppeteers that day. It was a lot of fun.
Such a great day for the puppetry industry.
Yes.
That was sort of in the heyday of puppets on preschool TV too.
Yes.
I have a theory that Flash animation is sort of what not killed, because there are more puppet shows coming on now, but for a long time.
Yeah.
Like Don Quixote now.
Don
Quixote and Helpsters. I mean, they're really great. I'm so lucky to get to work on all of them. New Fraggle Rock. Well, I think people can see a difference. You can actually interact with humans.
Yeah.
You actually have it's so tangible. It's there. But Flash animation was cheap. At a time, puppetry was really flourishing at a time when the only options you had for animation were cell animation. Which took a lot of time. And now, CG animation is cheaper, Flash animation is cheaper, so that became sort of the go-to. And there are also so many more kids shows on than there ever have been before.
Oh, yeah.
We're trying to get Bear on Disney Plus.
Yeah, and I hope that can happen. I'm kind of surprised that it hasn't, but and I know that all those.
I feel like I should bring this up since I mentioned it. Have you seen there's a petition for it? Have you seen the petition for it to get it on there?
I'm sure I have at some point. It's it's great. I'm so happy that there are so many fans who are who remember it fondly and want it to come back. It's tough to reboot anything. Kids shows are hard to reboot for many, many reasons. And who knows what'll happen, but I know that it means a lot to the performers who were on Bear, that the fan community.
Tyler Bunch, who was a previous guest.
That
was awesome.
And Peter and Noel and everyone.
Peter's amazing.
Yes.
Yeah, I know they all appreciate it. And they hope not only can the old shows run, but I'm sure they would love to go back and do more.
Right.
And Noel kind of is, because he's making he's on TikTok with his bear puppet and everything. I think that's just amazing.
And he's on Cameo too.
Yes.
It's so awesome.
So I think we talked about this briefly in the beginning, but were puppetry and acting kind of like a passion of yours that you had beforehand?
I mean, just performing in general. I had never really puppeteered before I realized I wanted to do it. But every other facet of puppetry, as far as performing is concerned, singing and character voices and improv and all that kind of performing. That was me. That was all me. And when I thought about pursuing puppetry, I just realized I had to learn the technique, and I taught myself by watching and so yeah.
There you
But
go.
all those elements were there. I just had to make it, and I wasn't sure if I could do it. It was a lot of experimenting with character and working in front of the monitor and just practicing lip sync over and over. And it was and it was a different time. You know, there weren't really books on it, and you couldn't email anyone about it because it was before the internet as we know it. And there was no YouTube for YouTube videos. And really, the only things I had were the Of Muppets and Men book and the Secrets of the Muppets tape that someone had dubbed for me.
Oh, wow.
And seeing anything behind the scenes was pretty rare, you know, at that time.
Yeah.
Whatever I could get my hands on. And then just watching the puppetry in general, I was able to sort of figure out, well, if the hand's in the head and the head's doing that, then the neck is the wrist. So I can do I can imitate those movements by doing X, Y, and Z, and just doing it over and over and over again. But I love, I love the performing so much. It was just a matter of getting the technique. And I was lucky to have access to camera equipment and friends to help me make some video projects in college. And it was fun to play around with that. But I feel like it just clicked for me.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Just a way to perform and do everything I wanted to do without it mattering what I looked like.
Yeah. I definitely agree on that. I self-taught myself as well.
Yeah, I kind of did. Well.
Yeah, same here.
Me and Jakey did also.
Yeah.
Yes. And we help get help from Marty and Matt over there.
Yeah. It's crazy how we've inspired people. We've only been doing this like almost 2 years.
Alex
it's crazy.
Yeah. That's great.
That's crazy.
Like there's a whole puppetry community on Instagram, which is amazing.
Oh yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. Very talented too.
Yeah, I mean, and even if you don't actually be a professional puppeteer, puppetry is a great way to explore character and explore other elements of performing. And
exactly.
It's just different. It allows you to push yourself into places that you might not without a puppet on your hand.
Exactly. Yes.
Yep.
It definitely teaches you how to improvise in character, which is not something that a lot of performers have the opportunity to do.
Right.
Outside of, Groundlings and Second City. It's a great thing.
Yeah.
So who were some of your influencers as a performer?
Oh, I mean, obviously all of the Muppet performers, but then you got people like
Jerry Nelson.
Again, exactly. I mean,
he's amazing.
Jim and Frank and Richard and Jerry and Carol and Fran and Dave and all the Muppet people. Yes, exactly. All those guys. But I mean, Julie Andrews and Madeline Kahn and Bernadette Peters and Carol Burnett. And like I said, all those actors on the sitcoms, Linda Lavin, and I can't even begin to remember, or think of all the names, and Betty White and
rest in peace,
and Mary Tyler Moore,
and
even like I watched soap operas growing up, so soap actors. There's some really great soap actors out there. Susan Lucci, just like you get a little from everyone you see, and I don't think you realize just how much those people you absorb until you have to start doing the work, and you're like, oh wow, okay, right. And it's not like I'm imitating them. It's just an influence.
Exactly.
Like, so-and-so did this, or so-and-so did that, or I really love the way this person gave that look, or that timing. And then writers. I mean, you look at the comedy of Carl Reiner, you look at the comedy of what Steve Martin was doing, and Gary Shandling, and Paula Poundstone, and Tracy Ullman. And the Simpsons in college was huge for me. It was when the show was first starting. Exactly. I was watching in the mid 90s when I was very unemployed. Comedy Central started showing the old Tracy Ullman show again. And Cal Slanetta and Julie Kavner were human actors in that. It was sketch comedy, and The Simpsons were just little animated bumpers. So watching them do that sketch comedy, or the Ben Stiller show, you have Bob Odenkirk and Ben Stiller and Andy Dick and Janine Garofalo. You know, it's the little things that seemingly pass by you that you realize years later. Oh wow! You know, watching Cheers, watching the Bob Newhart show and Newhart. Later on, huge comedic influences. And you know, they were brave. The bravery of a lot of those people. I was not a open kid. I was shy as a kid. I never really liked to raise my hand. But if I was on a stage and I had permission to be brave, I could do anything. And a lot of that bravery was learned by watching people just go all out on these shows. And you know, even when I was finally old enough to watch Saturday Night Live, you know, the 80s people, so Phil Hartman and Jan Hooks and Nora Dunn, and you know, these great people doing great character work.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely looked up to you guys, like watching Sesame Street and Book of Pooh and all those shows.
Yeah.
And you know, there's also people like Kevin Clash and Steve Whitmire, all those guys.
Yeah.
I feel like on the topic of Sesame, we need to bring up somebody who we lost this year, Emilio Delgado.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Emilio was the most amazing person.
I bet.
We thought I'm still processing.
I am too.
Emilio.
Well,
because he was so full of life in every way.
Yeah.
He was the happiest guy I've ever seen enter a room. He lit up every room he was in. I've never heard him complain or be angry. And even if he was talking about a situation that hurt him, he did it with a smile. I can't begin to explain how special Emilio was in every way.
I bet.
Such a sweet,
rest in peace,
good-looking, talented. His singing voice was so beautiful. His personality was so beautiful. He was just full of joy, and I was so lucky to know him. He was one of the first people to know my name.
Wow.
People to call me by name. When Luis says, "Hi, Stephanie," I'm just, oh my God. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and of course, you know, Carol Spinney and Jerry Nelson, of course, they were also wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be 10 years since we lost Jerry, and I can't believe it's been that long.
Which is actually Matt's favorite. Favorite.
One of my favorites, Jerry Nelson.
Yeah. Jerry also was such a special person, and again, still can't believe that I met him. Still can't believe that he ever knew my name. And he was someone whose voice was a very resonant part of my childhood. He did so many character voices that they stuck with me for so long.
Like Snuffy.
And then you meet them. He was Snuffy, and even his AMs, even like Farley or whatever. Or he'd sing a little, you know, the G Grover, G George. I mean, just what, or Emmett, you know, Emmett Otter. I mean, he would just bring this sweet soul to whatever he did, and that definitely influenced. They're all influences on the way I approach puppet characters. And Jerry's touch is a very soulful part of what makes a Muppet character work. And he really, the beating heart there. And Carol's a legend. You know, when Big Bird saying my name again, just like Luis saying my name. It's just, hello, Stephanie, and you just melt and turn 5 all over again. I've never met anyone who was happier to do what he did than Carol. He was just so proud and happy to be Big Bird and Oscar. There are people who, after a while, they become so defined by this one thing that they start to bristle and like, I do other things. I think that Carol would have been absolutely fine being defined as Big Bird forever and nothing else. Even though he loved to draw, he drew every day. His art mattered very much to him. Even when he couldn't puppeteer anymore, the fact that he could still draw. I think if he had lost the ability to draw, that probably would have been harder for him than losing the ability.
It probably would have shattered him almost.
He loved, at least even when he lost the use of his left hand, at least he was still drawing with his right hand. But he was so... I've never met anyone who was happier to be associated with a fictional character than Carol. So, and we've lost a lot of people. I mean, we lost Ted May, who was one of our great directors right before COVID.
Oh, wow.
Ted May goes back a long time. We lost Emily Squires. We lost Lisa Simon. We lost Dave Connor, who was our music director for years. He was the one who really... He was the one who told me I was a mezzo-soprano, and I just thought I was an alto. And I know that might not mean anything, but it means something.
Wow.
We lost Danny Epstein, who was, the music supervisor for a long time and played in the Sesame Band for a long time. We've lost, the
original Mr. Hooper.
Will Lee. No, I never knew Will Lee. No, there have been. I never met Joe Raposo, and I really didn't meet Jeff Moss. I worked with John Stone maybe only a couple of times. But, there have been so many people who have been instrumental and vital to Sesame Street who we've lost along the way. And
and they kind of shaped Sesame, and so they kind of shaped Sesame into what it is now.
It doesn't get easier. Every time we lose someone, it just gets more and more unfathomable. But I know how time works, and I know how time passes, and that's oh my God. And what was happening for a while, and Judy Freudberg and Tony Geist, two of our great writers. The last time I saw Judy was at Tony's memorial, and the last time I saw Arlene Sherman was at Judy's memorial, and there have been amazing, wonderful people. And I never want anyone to forget that the show is constantly bringing people in and out. It's like life. People come in, people come out. But we do our best to honor what we think they would want. And we do our best to honor their legacy. And I know that the work that all of these people have done, we talk about these people all the time. We still talk about Jerry 10 years after he's been gone. We will never stop talking about them. And but we can't shut down and stop forever because I think that they wouldn't, obviously they wouldn't want that. They wouldn't want to be responsible for, ending things. But it is our job to carry on their legacy. And I know that I will always do my best to make sure that none of these people are forgotten.
And I think Matt Vogel has done a very good job taking over Jerry's characters and taking over Big Bird. Definitely done a great job.
And Eric's done a great job with Oscar, and Peter's done a great job whenever we have Harry Munster on. And
he's also Ernie.
Yep. He's
terrific.
Great Ernie. We're really lucky that we have people who put so much care not into just what they do, but honoring the character and the performer who came before. It's really important.
So besides all those people, while puppeteering, who do you feel you've learned the most from, or is it just those people?
You learn a little bit from everyone, and there are people who obviously I never met Jim and Richard, but I've learned from their work. Also there are people that I worked with who were great, but it's not like they took me under their wing. Camille Benara Camporis, who's wonderful and was sort of leaving as I was coming in, but she was there my first day, and she was always really lovely to me. But it's not like... So she was lovely and great and teased me about memorizing my scripts, but no one ever said, "Oh, do this," or have your puppet do this. Or I think our generation is a little more hands-on with the new people coming up in that regard, if we can help them in that regard. I think that when my group came up, we were sort of a little more thrown into the deep end of the pool. I think we were more told what we were doing wrong than what we were doing right. And that's just, just the way things were at that time.
Yeah, it's just life.
But learning from doesn't necessarily mean hands-on. I learn a lot by watching other people, and sometimes in person when I'm working with them. Sometimes if I'm just observing. There was a lot of observing going on when I first... We always encourage new puppeteers to come in and observe and just watch how the set works and watch how we position our bodies physically on the set. Yeah. And just how communication happens between a main performer and an assist, or how communication happens between the audio department or the booth or the director.
Right.
So I can't point to any one person who has taught me more. I think that's one of the things I'm really happy about, is I'm not emulating any one puppeteer. All of the puppeteers in sort of this wonderful jambalaya of talent and ability has all informed me in different ways. So whatever I do is a wholly new combination of everyone, puppeteers and non-puppeteers. I've been influenced by so many great people, and that's how people create their individual styles. And I think it would be really boring if I just said, oh, okay, well, I'm a girl and Fran's the main girl, so I'm just going to do whatever Fran does. It wouldn't make me very interesting as a performer in general, and it certainly wouldn't make my puppet characters very... Because I didn't have any... I could do a Prairie Dawn imitation, but I would just do that for fun. I didn't have any designs to take Prairie Dawn from anyone. I never thought I'd be playing her. I doubled her a lot, especially when Fran was doing Zoe. My hands were small. So if Fran was doing Prairie, I'd do Zoe and vice versa. Because Zoe's a very narrow puppet, and Prairie's very little. So you put a big hand into Zoe, the look of her neck actually changes. So that was one of... I don't pretend it was for many other reasons other than that. Men and women. I still find myself inspired by watching a great Jack Lemmon performance in a movie. Billy Wilder films. It's important to stay open to all voices and new voices, and I'm constantly learning. I'm learning from friends who are creating now, people who are younger than me who are creating now. I think that's the weird part about getting older, is when you start admiring people who are younger than you. Because when you're growing up and you're in your 20s and 30s, everyone you want to emulate is older than you.
Exactly.
And now I'm like, wow, John Oliver's my hero. John Oliver is 10 years younger than I am.
He's awesome.
He is awesome. And so is his producer, Tim Carvel, who's also younger than I am. So that's the weird thing, is when you find yourself... But I think that's the important thing about life, is don't stop learning, don't stop growing, and don't cut yourself off from someone who you think can educate you. I'm learning a lot from the youngs. I mean, and you look at people like Greta Thunberg and Amanda Gorman and Malala, these are great people that I can learn a lot from. So keeping your mind open makes you a better performer and a better person. And I've always said it's paraphrased a line from Yankee Doodle Dandy. It's more important to be a great person than it is to be a great actor.
Absolutely.
And I know you've had a couple of your own characters on Sesame, like Lulu and
the Graveyard.
And I
enjoyed
and
Lulu.
all those characters.
Yes, and Elizabeth. And again, I was lucky at a time when there were more shows and more opportunities for new characters to have scripts. I was great. I had great fun. Things change, awesome. Shows change. I did them, but I'm always a person who also likes variety. So there are characters that I could play forever, but I know that everybody, even if they love playing a character, it's like, okay, well, what else can I do? It's like weightlifting. You're only going to get stronger. You're not going to get any stronger if you keep lifting the same weight over and over and over again.
Yes, definitely.
You want to challenge yourself. You want to give yourself something else to do, whether that's vocally or personality-wise or, our age, this, that. So I love the variety that I get to have by not really playing a lot of consistent characters over the years. And I get to have a consistent character on Helpsters and Donkey Kong, which is great.
Yes.
So I feel like I get to have the best of a lot of worlds. I get to have one-off characters once in a while, and even on Helpsters, if I get to play a one-off character, that's fun. That's really like, I'm like, yes. It's not because I don't love playing Cody. I love playing Cody. It's just something different.
Yeah. It's
Always
good
up for something.
It's good to challenge yourself. Yeah, it's good to challenge yourself in that aspect.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Yes, instead of being the same character for like so many decades, for example.
Yeah, and again, there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
It's just that I want to get stronger. I want to get better.
Exactly.
I want to explore more and see what I can do and challenge myself. There are some. I don't think Carol wanted to play a lot of other characters.
Yeah,
it was great. He perfectly happy doing.
He
Big
brought
Bird
life
and
to the
Oscar
characters.
Forever. Yeah,
Exactly.
and and Bruno.
Yes.
And Granny Fanny Nesselrode for a brief period of time, but seriously, I don't think I never heard him whine that bring back Granny Fanny Nesselrode. He was very happy to do what he did. And that's fine. Like, it's just, I'm restless that way.
Yeah.
But he had his outlets in other ways. Everybody's different. What they want, everybody's different.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Oh yeah.
So I think Matt should ask the next
Matt, how do you think Matt
about a certain musical?
Matt asked the next two. Bring up the book as well. Because he has
definitely.
He got this book yesterday.
We brought up the book earlier, but we told you we had the soundtrack. We have it right here.
Oh, there it is.
There it is.
Yep. For those listening to this on audio, this is the original soundtrack of the Tony Award winning Avenue Q. Yep.
Yes.
Which
19 years ago.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
All those years ago. And if you want to see the book again, we did bring it up. I gotta say, completely off topic, I love how
it's
this cover is made of fur. No, the book came out in 2006, but the Broadway was 2003. Yeah,
2003. That's right.
Yeah, and it has the song list in there too.
Years after it.
It's got the whole script in this book.
Yeah.
And we were off. Yeah, we were off Broadway at the Vineyard Theater exactly 19 years ago this month.
And it has the same kind of same color around the book of Marty.
Yeah. We match.
Exactly.
Yes.
Was it challenging? Was it challenging at all transitioning from like doing Sesame Street to doing a more adult project like Avenue Q?
Not at all. Do you not think I swear in real life? I mean, I'm a performer. Well, because here's the thing: is like I'm a performers again. It's all about variety, and it's just words. It's just you're just saying different words. The character approach doesn't change, whether I'm doing Sesame Street or an animated project or Avenue Q. Character. I'm not thinking about the words are just. The words drive it, but the words inform the character, but the words are the words. Yeah. And no matter what those words were, I would say them as Kate. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Approach them with the same qualities that Kate brings them. So if they decided to clean up the show or to do the high school version of it where they cut all those words, it would still be the same Kate. I've done, I did theater in I did live theater in high school and college. I have no problem being on a stage. The tricky issue was, okay, so what are we doing with our faces? What are we doing with the puppet? How are we? Yeah. It was all technical. And when we presented the first readings, I've told this story many, many times. Avenue Q was originally going to be a television show.
Oh, wow.
That's right.
It was called Avenue Q Children's Television for 20-somethings. But we presented it like a musical theater reading with music stands. So we didn't try to hide the puppeteers.
No.
And it became very obvious from these readings in May of 2000 that two things. A, it was a live show. It needed to be a live performance, not a TV show. And
Right.
B, it helped to see the puppeteers because we were using television puppets, television puppetry style, but we did not have the luxury of the single camera lens that we as puppeteers use to convey the emotions. So our faces became a little bit of a subtitle, as it were.
Yeah.
It also became cheaper because we didn't have to dig trenches in a stage. So Jason Moore could stage us anywhere.
Right.
We didn't have to worry about safety issues. We didn't have to worry about a human cast member falling into a pit.
Yeah.
It just made sense for the show to just be done that way. But that's the stuff that took the figuring out. Not the performance, not the character, not even the puppetry itself. It was, okay, where am I going to look? Am I going to look at Kate or am I going to look out at the audience? And I realized early on when we would do developmental readings as the show was being developed was when I looked at, usually we would just look at the music stand because we'd have to look at the script.
Yeah,
But by then we'd all memorized the songs because we'd done them so many times. So I didn't have to look at the music stand. So I started to look at Kate. And a couple things happened. One, I felt very cut off from the audience when I did that. But second, I realized, looking at a puppet, this is the relationship that a ventriloquist has with their character.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if I'm looking at Kate, it almost makes it makes the audience assume this face, my face, is going to start talking to this puppet.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking at it. And when is that puppet going to look at my face and start talking back to me? As opposed to, if I'm mirroring what the puppet's doing, suddenly I am now supporting visually the character in every way. Yeah. So I am as much the character as Kate is. I am not Stephanie DeBruzo holding the puppet. I am truly playing this character. Yeah. And so that took figuring out. When I would do scenes with Lucy, where Jen Barnhart was physically manipulating Lucy and I was holding Kate, but doing both voices. No one told me to do this, but I figured that this would make the most sense. I kept the facial expression of whatever character I was holding. So it meant I had to do a facial expression that was going against what Lucy was doing vocally when I spoke for Lucy. Because I thought, this is going to make the most sense. If I am truly embodying Kate in this moment physically, my face needs to reflect her, even if I'm speaking. And I'm still moving my lips. I'm not a ventriloquist. Right. But at least it would make it less confusing and make it seem like I am still Kate. And same thing with Barnhart. At first, Barnhart was not having any facial expressions until someone in the audience said, well, A, it looks like you're not having a good time. And B, it just doesn't quite fit. So she started reflecting the character intention with her face, even if she wasn't even when she was right-handing Nikki and Trekkie. Right. So that it became a full embodiment of the character in every way. So that's the stuff that took figuring out. But as far as the performance went, I approach everything I do, whether it's me with a puppet, without a puppet, on a stage, on TV. The differences are just in the physicality of the medium. You're bigger on a stage. You have to worry about eye line and continuity in television. But as far as the way you approach a character, that didn't change for me. Yes. A character is the character, and you deal with the character in front of you for every project uniquely and But that, again, that's just me. Everybody else has their own techniques. Exactly. It was not a challenge. Yeah. I know the people, it's an easy thing. They like to think, oh, what was it like to swear with a puppet? you do a puppet show for long enough. In between takes, you play around. We do all the things that everybody does with puppets, and you're playing around, and they're kissing each other, and
they can do whatever they want to do, you know.
Or you do a blooper and you swear. We've all done that on shows, and
we have.
We know it's not for public consumption. And
Matt's done that quite a bit with somebody.
We've done that. We've done that.
Yeah.
So we've been there.
You know, it's not. It's not that it's so precious.
No, but Avenue Q is amazing.
It is.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
It is.
I was really lucky to get to work on it. I was really fortunate.
John Taglia was a part of it as well, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Yes. He absolutely was. And Rick Lyon and Jen Barnhart. And we were so lucky.
Yeah.
Amy Garcia worked on that, and she's gone on to work on Fraggle Rock. And
that's right.
Great
John's
people.
on the new Fraggle Rock as well.
Yep.
Yes. Yes.
He is.
I said that with the assumption. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I asked this one. I know you would definitely.
So the year that Avenue Q started, it was a big year. Wicked was all the buzz. But somehow you guys snuck it out and won the best musical Tony. What in the world was going through your head? Because Wicked was as we said, Wicked was the big deal. Like, this was like the show that was raving all over.
But Avenue Q got it. Avenue Q
what was your reaction?
Snuck it out.
I mean, I was just as surprised as anyone else. I personally really loved Caroline or Change that year. I thought that was a great show. We were really, it was a very strong year for musicals. We were very lucky, but Wicked is still running strong on Broadway. So it's really not a true measure of whether a show is worthy of running on Broadway or not. In fact, there are a lot of people now who think Wicked was robbed. And I think at the time there were a lot of people who were happy for Avenue Q beating the big fancy show. But now there are people who are very angry about it, and they're angry at me, and I didn't do anything.
Yeah, you didn't do anything.
The thing is I think that there were people at the time who thought there was this competition between shows, and that couldn't be farther from the truth. The Broadway community is pretty supportive of each other, and we know that a good show raises all boats. We got a lot of our audience from people who lost the Wicked lottery. Our audience demographics overlapped with Wicked quite a bit. We appealed to a very similar demographic, so I saw a lot of Wicked hats in our audience. We love that people came to town to see Wicked, because then maybe they'd see another show when they were in town, and maybe that show would be Avenue Q. So, Boy from Oz was across the street from us, and Hugh Jackman raised so much money for Broadway Cares that year. And we loved, we loved being on the same street as Hugh Jackman and being, down the block from, or a few blocks away from Wicked, and down the block from Taboo, and not far from Caroline or Change. And Little Shop of Horrors had their revival that year, and we just loved being part of that community. So I don't like when the narrative, it's an easy narrative for press that shows get competitive. That's not true. I think all shows want other shows to run, and we want everybody to be successful. Obviously shows come and go. That show has to close for another show to open. That's the circle of life. To quote another Broadway show. But nobody had any ill will at the Tonys, and no one said, "Oh wow, we got it." That wasn't our reaction at all. It was, what? We were the little show that could. We were just this little thing. And that those voters at that time in history voted for us, that's lovely. That's lovely. It still is a surprise. And not because we weren't good. It's always a surprise when anything is recognized.
Yeah.
It's not false modesty or anything. It's just how nice. I mean, I was just happy that we ran it long enough to be on the Tonys. That was not a given.
No.
When the show opens, we could have closed easily in 3 months if we were not a big hit at the beginning. People, it's a hard show to describe to people. I mean, because we didn't just want to call it a dirty puppet show, because that's not what it was. It wasn't just a dirty puppet show. So we were, people drag their friends kicking and screaming, saying, I don't like musicals, I don't like puppets, don't make me come see this, but then they enjoyed the show. So
Yeah.
I don't know why things succeed, and I don't know why things fail. I've said this for a long time. Not everything
not
good
your
is
fault.
successful, and not everything successful
Right.
is good. But an award also does not equate success. Well, it was a nice thing. It was a great thing.
Exactly.
But all things considered, Wicked's still going strong, and great for them. It's But narratives change over the years. It's the same thing with Oscars, the same thing with
Oscars are
Emmys
coming
and
up.
Oscars.
Yeah.
All people can talk about is, well, this film, do you remember what film won Best Picture 3 years ago? No.
No.
What really matters is standing the test of time. And I'll tell you something. Getting an award does not make mediocre work better.
Yeah.
And not getting an award doesn't make doesn't make good work worse.
Yeah.
If you don't get an award,
right.
that does not negate your good work. And I think we get so caught up in trophies that people just assume, oh, well, then you must not have been good enough if you didn't win. Well, there can only ever be one winner.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, look at Olympians, for heaven's sake. You're going to tell me that everybody, in the opening ceremonies, when the thousands of athletes march through that arch, that a fraction of them are going to come home with a medal. Does that negate the athleticism and professionalism and wonderfulness of the people who don't medal? Of course not.
Yeah.
But we're flawed humans, and we like shiny things.
Anyway,
one thing I wanted to talk about briefly. I know you were also on a game show.
Yeah.
Pyramid.
Game show. Yeah, no, it was Pyramid, the Donny Osmond version of Pyramid. Was during Broadway week, not long after Avenue Q opened in 2003. It was the fall of 2003. And that was a lot of fun because my husband, Craig Shedman, is a huge game show fan. Pyramid is one of our favorite shows. The old Dick Clark version. It's a fun word game to play. So, and we played the home game. I mean, it's a fun game. So I was proud of the fact that I knew how to play that game. Unfortunately, they made me play with Kate Monster on my hand. So
no.
It's hard to... Now, fortunately, the end game, they let Kate just watch. I still had to have her on, but I can't imagine the pressure of trying to help someone win money and having to puppeteer. It's too much for your brain. As it was challenging to play in character.
Right.
Well, there were the contestants who were watching in the green room. They're like, oh my God, there's a puppet girl? We don't want to be paired with her. But I was very proud. Got to the winner's circle 3 times and won twice. So out of the 2 shows that I did.
Wow.
But it was fun. But you really do. I mean, that's stressful.
I can imagine.
$10,000 on the line for someone. That's not nothing. I didn't want to mess up, and I still kick myself for the guy who I couldn't get. I lost in the winner's circle on, and then I kicked myself for the time I didn't get to the winner's circle. This is 19 years later, and I'm
19 years later.
What could I have said? What could I have done? But it was fun, and Donny Osmond was great, and
Donnie's amazing.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun to be on a game show. I think that if my career had gone in a different path, it would have been a lot of fun to be one of those people who shows up on all the game shows. But that's not how it went. But would have been fun, and my husband would have loved it. The only bad thing is it meant that he couldn't audition for the show.
Right.
If I had been on it, it meant he couldn't audition to be on it. But,
Yeah.
Oh well.
Yeah. So, what can you tell us about the show that they're now a part of now, which is called, that you mentioned earlier, the Helpsters?
Yeah, Helpsters is a lot of fun. I don't know when the next season is coming, but I think it's coming soon.
Yeah.
It's on Apple TV Plus.
Marty's excited.
We've had a great time.
Marty is excited.
Yeah. It's really fantastic.
Oh yeah, I know when he's not.
Really
I'm not saying when though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we don't know. We honestly don't know. I don't know when it's happening. Apple knows, maybe they do, maybe they don't, but we're on a need-to-know basis, and apparently right now we don't need to know.
We don't.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
But no, we have a good time doing it, and we've had some great guest stars come on the show, some really great comedic people. I see them everywhere now. And I think of all our Helpsters alumni. Chris Redd is killing it. And Zach Cherry and Larry Owens. I see him everywhere. And Kate Micucci and
she's awesome. She's the voice of Velma in Scooby-Doo now.
Yeah. And I met Kate Micucci a long time ago on the one of the finale episodes of Scrubs. And she's just wonderful. We've been in touch for a long time, so it was so great when she came on the show. And Michael Torpy and oh my gosh, and then Michael Ian Black and Richard Kind, who I'd met several times before he did the show. And we've just had Robin Thede. We had really great people on our first 2 seasons. So, and Francesca Ramsey. There's
just so many amazing people.
Yeah, and great people from the world of comedy. So we've got some good people coming up, but I can't say anything about who they are. Really fun people.
Sure, it'll be wonderful. Can't wait to see it.
They all get put in some really weird situations, and they've all been game to play with us, which is wonderful.
Yeah, I don't have Apple TV Plus right now, but it has crossed my mind to subscribe.
Yeah,
should.
I mean, think about it this way: Fraggle Rock, the new Fraggle Rock, is getting season 2. How about you guys get a season 3?
Yeah. You just. I mean, there's some good, and there's some other good shows on Apple TV Plus that I've enjoyed as well. And I think there's some new stuff coming up too. That's exciting. I mean, I've enjoyed Morning Show. I'm looking forward to seeing Severance. I've enjoyed Central Park, which is good. I really liked Mythic Quest. Is a great show. I know they've got a couple more seasons.
Yeah, they've been doing a lot of new stuff with the Peanuts characters on Apple TV Plus as well.
Snoopy show.
Well, and you can see Charlie Brown Christmas whenever you want too.
Exactly. Yeah,
great, which is amazing. Which I actually have a DVD.
That is right. Yeah,
I have the DVD.
I do as well.
Somewhere.
But yeah, we have a good time, and we're really lucky that our writers let us play around with the characters a little bit. I get to sneak in some little improvisations. I really got to make Cody my own, which was nice. I got to, for a character who has to be a leader, sometimes it's very hard to figure out how to play the comedy because Cody doesn't really get the funny lines. So rather than saying funny things, I have to say things funny, which can be a bit of a challenge. And I was lucky that they gave me a little bit of a leash to really make Cody something that I think is special. I hope that other people like her too. It's tricky. It's a tricky line to ride when you're playing the leader of a lot of really funny, silly characters. But we have a good time with each other.
I also really like the Helpsters Help You. The spin-off that you did.
I love that.
We
shot that in the room I'm sitting in now.
Oh wow!
During the pandemic, we shot that from home. Yeah.
Wow.
Craig was the camera person, and we set up that green screen, and
and just
thank
record.
you. We were proud
just
of
press
that.
the record button.
Well, not quite. We had quite the setup, and it was a fun challenge, but it was nice to be able to do something, and it was really great that Apple allowed us to do that. When the Sesame characters when the pandemic first started, Sesame was reaching out and saying, we want to do stuff from home, and I said, well, I don't know how much you're going to want to do with Prairie Dawn, but wouldn't it be great if I could do something with Cody? And Ben Lehman talked to Tim Macchione, and Tim Macchione talked to Apple, and presto, we had Helpsters Help You, and in a matter of weeks. It happened really fast, and we were really lucky that we could feel like we could do something. It was a challenge. It's a challenge to work from home, but it was fun.
I bet.
Oh yeah.
Speaking of challenging, was it typical or challenging assuming roles of characters from past Puppeteers?
You mean taking over Prairie?
Yeah. Was it difficult? Yeah.
Pretty much.
That's the only one I've done. That's the only character I've adopted. I love Prairie, and anything to help keep her going, I want to do. And that Fran, it was nice that Fran was a part of that process.
for so long.
That she sort of had, that I got her blessing, as it were.
Yeah.
So I love playing around with Prairie whenever I can. I know I don't sound exactly like Prairie. I just try to do whatever I can do to make it as close to the Prairie we all know and love as possible.
And it made the magic happen.
Try.
Yeah.
But yeah, Fran is great, and I was the last thing that Fran did as Prairie was that big that Cookie Museum mystery project, the Great Cookie Heist project that that special we did with Rachel Dratch, and that was Prairie had been huge, and Prairie hadn't really been on for a while, so I got to be there. For Fran, we knew Fran was retiring. She knew she was leaving. She had her last official day, actually having performed Prairie, which not everybody obviously has. So it was nice to sort of, now I didn't know I was playing her yet. The auditions hadn't happened yet, but it was nice to see that Fran was okay with it, that it was her choice. No one was forcing anybody out. So it's just, but I just love Prairie.
Yeah, speaking of Prairie, she was actually a part of the recent Sesame Street Galaxy Con.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
that was
thing.
Yes.
That was amazing to watch.
That was really fun.
Yeah, that was a fun panel.
Seeing Kevin and Steve,
Oscar,
Frank, and all of them again, together again.
Roscoe.
Yeah,
Roscoe.
and
Bob.
I'm gonna be a part of it one day.
Really amazing. Really amazing.
Hopefully,
I don't know. I don't know about that, but I'm happy to have a job, and I'm happy to have my health insurance, and that's really all an actor can ask for.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
To make a living doing something you enjoy and do it enough so you can earn your health insurance. I mean,
there you go.
That's not nothing. I may never be anybody's favorite. I may never have the most popular characters. I may never even have a big character, but I've managed to make a living in this little corner of the business, and I know a lot of people who are far more talented than I am who have not had the same opportunities that I've had. Whether they're working on stage or whether they're working in non-puppetry television or voiceover, there are so many talented people in this industry who there are only so many jobs. Yeah. And it's not because they're not good. It's just for whatever reason. So I count myself very fortunate, and I know that it's not a given. I know that it's not something that will necessarily last forever. So I'm grateful for every day I get to do it.
Yep.
So what do you find to be the main differences between, say, acting with the puppet and acting on stage?
I have an IQ.
You can brush your hair out of your face if you don't have a puppet on.
Yes.
You can pick up a prop and you don't have to worry about rigging it. Avenue Q is a different story, but I mean, the shows that I've done without a puppet on stage, you don't have to worry about a lot of things. I mean, puppetry is not easy. It's just something you even when it's second nature, you still have to think about it. You still have to think about your technique. So when I sing Fine, Fine Line, not in context of the show and without the puppet, I sing it differently. Because I'm not singing it as Kate. I don't sing it in the character voice. And I'm singing it as a standalone song.
Yeah.
So it sounds different. Kate doesn't belt those high notes. I do belt those high notes. It's different. Not better, not worse, just different.
Yep.
When I did I Love You Because, which was a off-Broadway show I did after Avenue Q, different role, different show. I changed costumes. I mean, sometimes it's those little things. It just depends on the role. I only played one role as opposed to Avenue Q, where it was multiple roles. So I enjoy the opportunities to perform in any regard, but the biggest difference is really little things like costumes and shoes and being able to brush the hair out of your face and where you wear your microphone, and it's those little things.
Yes.
I know it's not a really fun answer, but it's sometimes answers are boring.
Every answer can be,
it's an answer nonetheless.
But it's my truth.
Yeah.
The truth might not be exciting, but it's my truth.
Yeah.
Everyone has a different answer, so there you go.
Yeah. Everybody has a different answer.
Yep. And did learning about puppetry and acting, or did puppetry and acting as a whole like influence how you look at yourself as a person?
No, I think puppetry is just something that I do. And I know how lucky I am to do it. I'm lucky to be part of that world. Now, where it has affected me are all the people that I've gotten to meet because I'm a puppeteer. So the Jerry Nelsons and the Carol Spinneys and the Emilio Delgados of the world and the Sonia Manzanos and the Bob McGraths, those people who I can call my friends are very special to me. The Matt Vogels and the Eric Jacobsons and all of and the Ryan Dillons and all those wonderful people. They're in my life, and I'm so grateful that they're in my life because I do that. But the actual act of being a puppeteer, as opposed to any other career path I might have chosen,
you still do it.
Yeah.
Well, it's just
you just gotta get used to it.
No, it has nothing to do with that. It's just who I am as a person. I like to think that puppetry is just one element of who I am as a person.
Yes.
We're all more than one
definitely.
thing. I am many things, and puppeteer is just one of them. So I'm lucky that these are people that I've gotten to learn from and interact with and be friends with. But if I was a puppeteer and didn't know those people, I don't know that that would necessarily change me. It might change my experiences that might, have a ripple effect. But no, I will always have my same insecurities, no matter what I've done, whether I succeeded or failed as a performer. I will always have my insecurities. I will always have my regrets or things I wish I'd done differently. I will always have my relationship with food. I will always have the way I watch a movie. I will, there are things about me that have nothing to do with what I do for a living. But what I'm grateful for is the people that puppetry has brought me to. Right. So
absolutely.
if they have informed me in any way, then that's different than the puppetry actually informing me. I mean, I suppose in one way, yes, I guess when you're a puppeteer, you get used to being on the ground and you get used to being treated a little differently as a performer. But I think everybody's got that to some degree. Dealing with the stigma of being a puppeteer in preschool television, I mean, comic actors have the stigma of being a comic actor and they want to do drama. Soap actors have the stigma of being a soap actor. People who want to edit, people who are editors who want to be directors, people who are gaffers who want to be art directors. There's so many people who are more than one thing, who can do more than one thing. So they're dealing with the way people define them. I don't know. I don't think that puppetry's made me who I am, but it's made my life great.
I bet.
So I can't complain about that.
So before I go to the last set of questions, I'm going to ask this briefly. So I know you are a part of something for Sesame Street, which we're part of the collaboration, which is for a song that a band called REM did, which is called for Happy Monsters.
I know you were talking about it first.
I love how you call it a collaboration. I just got to sing. I didn't write the lyric. Chris Surf wrote those lyrics.
We'll get him
I didn't get to write the lyrics. I didn't have any input on anything. I just got the gig.
Puppeteering either.
That's right. I didn't get to do the puppeteering either. That's right. And I wish I did, but that was not my choice.
See, what's funny? When I first heard Sesame Street's version of that song, I legitimately thought that female singer was the same person who sang it in
you thought that
the
was
original
Kate Pearson?
song.
That's very flattering.
Did you really?
That's the first time you ever heard that.
Better. I was coming down with a cold when I recorded that, and I always feel like it could have been better. It could have been better. It was just the best I could do at the time. So that's very flattering that you say that. I appreciate that. Thank you. I was very lucky, not just lucky to get to do it, but to actually do it in the room with Michael Stipe and Mike Mills. Normally, I would have recorded this on my own, and they would have put their vocals in after the fact. We all sang it together, and Dave Connor, the late great Dave Connor, was right there with us, and I can't believe still that I was in the same room, surrounded by we were divided by these sound walls. So we weren't standing right next to each other, but I could see them through these little plexiglass windows in the sound walls. And wow, that was... But again, I was on antihistamines, so I was so nervous about getting it right and not sounding terrible that I couldn't really take it all in. And I didn't gush enough to them because I was a big fan. But
Yes.
I wanted to play it cool. And they were great. They were so great. I just, and still, the fact that that's 24 years ago, and that's still one of the highlights of my career.
1998.
Yeah.
And also thing that they did, which we actually talked about before we're doing this, you're part of the, part of the being puppeteers for the Oinky Sisters.
Oinker Sisters.
I did get to do, Oinker Sisters very briefly. In the Nathan Lane sing insert. And in one of the one of the Elmo's worlds, I did get to be an Oinker Sister for a hot second.
Yeah.
That was fun.
That
was fun.
And something cool, and I know Chris has a video. You did an episode of Elmo's World, which was the books episode.
Yeah.
Right, Chris?
Where I was a chicken.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
I think, yeah.
Let it come in at the end and sing book, 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 book.
Yeah, there it is.
Old school media.
Yep.
Physical VHS
and Elmo
media.
Grouchland.
Yep.
And Elmo and
Yeah.
Look at
Grouchland,
that.
which
And I
I
have
was
all that stuff, too.
very lucky to do.
Yes.
With Mr.
Yes.
Mandy Patinkin.
So I know we're getting close to wrapping up. So do you have any advice at all for people who want to get into puppeteering or acting?
And Matt, you can give your advice on the puppeteering thing.
I think the technicalities, lip sync is very important. Every single syllable. Yep, every single one. And really just character development. You got to develop the characters. I mean, you may not build the puppets, but you're the one performing them. You develop them, and who knows, might be something magical. Yeah.
Just like you and Marty.
Aw, shucks.
Anyway,
Yeah.
What about you, Stephanie?
That's all pretty good.
Yeah.
No, I guess I speak more in generalities about it. I just, don't be afraid to do something different. Don't think of puppets as being so precious that you can't do something outrageous and fun. Challenge yourself.
Yes, definitely challenge yourself.
Just be who you are.
Definitely.
Vary the way that
Your
character
interest too
moves
high.
and walks, and give it highs and lows. Decide whether that character is going to be quiet. Sometimes still is also very nice. I think everybody likes to think that bold is big and wild and crazy, and sometimes being small and deadpan is also a lot of fun. I discovered how wonderfully deadpan puppets could be when I was in college, and that changed a lot for me. Play with everything a puppet can do. Reaction time, listening. Listening is one of the most important things a puppet character can do. But also, just as a performer, show up on time. Your call time is not the time you arrive, it's the time you're ready to work. Be prepared. If someone says you have to be off book at this time, you memorize your scripts, then do that. And if you're not, we don't always memorize our scripts at Sesame Street, but at least look at them. Don't read them cold. Think about, have a plan, and be prepared to change that plan. Yeah. That's something we teach on Sesame Street, but man, it really applies to life too. Have a plan, but be ready to change it. Have a voice in mind, but be ready to change that voice. Have intention. Work with intent. Don't just read the words. Remember that it's a performance, and that it has to make this thing that's not alive seem like it has a beating heart and breathing lungs and a thinking brain. Even if its eyes don't blink, even if there's nothing funny about it, even if it just has one line, even if it has no lines. Yeah. Make it mean something. Have intent. You're going to walk across the screen. You're going to walk across the screen. Go someplace. Have intention of where you're going to go. Are you going to walk slow? Or are you going to walk fast? Are you going to roller skate? Are you going to be depressed? Are you going to be happy? Are you going to be in a hurry? Are you going to be taking your time? So many options. But don't get so bogged down by those choices that you get frozen by the decision. Mm-hmm. Make choices. And don't be afraid to fail. I think that's a big thing too.
Yeah.
That's why, especially in theater, that's what the rehearsal process is for. And I need to remember that.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to be right on first thing. Learn the song, learn the notes,
script.
learn the words, then play. And it doesn't have to be the right choice every time. That's what rehearsal is for. Get to that. You don't always have that time in television.
Yeah.
So you have to work a little faster with puppetry.
Yeah, I've seen and heard some interviews with actors who get asked the same question. They say that, usually it's not the acting part that's that's difficult. It's hearing no and
I did a play.
Job.
I did a school play a long time ago. I played Great Big Little Panther and Peter Pan. Memorize the script is what you have to do.
Yeah. Know your cues. Don't get so bogged down by being on your. Don't ever be on your phone backstage.
Yeah.
No.
That didn't exist when I was in school, but you'd be surprised. People do, and they miss entrances. Be fully present, and be considerate of your fellow performers too.
Oh yeah.
Listen.
Yeah.
Don't
And
upstage
improve.
them. And remember, you may not always get the laugh. The most important thing about our human cast on Sesame Street is sometimes they get short shrift, because the Muppets get so much attention. But really, it's the humans that make those characters really feel like they're alive because they believe
And they're at home.
in those characters.
Yeah.
It's the human
There you
cast who believes in the reality of our characters. And that's important when you have a scene partner. You have to believe in them and they have to believe in you. You are all in this together, whether you have one line or all the lines.
Yes.
And I don't like the hierarchies that happen. Be nice to your crew. Your crew is so important. Nobody is lesser than anybody else.
Yes.
The chorus,
Exactly.
the band, the people who are giving out the programs, everybody.
Catering.
So many others too.
Don't be
Catering.
a diva. Don't be a diva. There's no
Exactly.
reason to be a diva ever, ever.
Yeah,
and
and-
really appreciate the specialized work that the people on your crew do, because I can't do it.
So, do you have any words to say to your fans of your work, like Sesame, Book of Pooh, Avenue Q?
Any of it.
Ton of things.
I don't really tend to think about the fact that I have them, just because I can't fathom that. I just do the work, and if people like it, that's really nice. But I don't think about fans. It's just weird to think about. It's lovely that you all love it, and it's really nice to hear. I just don't really think about, oh, my fans. No. I just thank you for liking what I do, and I hope that I do things that you continue to like. I'm sorry for the things that you might not like.
It's fine. Where can people find you on social medias and that?
Right now, I'm only on Twitter.
There you
DeBruzo
go.
tweets.
I'll follow you
That's
There you
it.
go.
That's my
There you go.
compromise.
So, this podcast, it's Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show, and it's very important that what we talk about nostalgia and everything, which I'm glad what the show is about. Well, and it's great for this last question to be that question.
Yeah, since episode
What
21.
what do you think? What do you think that defines nostalgia to you?
I think that nostalgia is something you remember from a time in your life that was nice.
Good point.
Nostalgia is something. Nostalgia is a feeling you get when you're watching something that's familiar and pleasant, and that makes you happy.
Yes.
And that's the
That you
best.
saw to talk about and you'll be cherish those memories forever.
Yeah, and it doesn't necessarily have to do just with childhood either. It's just anything
Right.
that anything that you remember that evokes a nicer time for you. I can't say that I had the greatest childhood, but I remembered liking the things that I liked back then, and when I see them and get nostalgic for them, it's because those things made me happy then.
Yeah.
And they continue to make me happy now. It's not, for me, it's not so much, oh, I think about when I was a kid and blah, blah, blah. It's not so much that. It's just that, oh, wow, this is something that I remember, and I remember really liking then, and I still like it now. Or this was something that I remember really liking, and I remember it, and it's terrible now. Oh, why did I ever like it? This is awful, but oh, isn't it fun to remember? There's that element of nostalgia too.
Yeah.
Some things that you remember, you just remember remembering.
Yeah.
And I often wonder about when nostalgia happened. Because I think for a long time there wasn't a lot to be nostalgic about.
Yeah,
I don't know if before movable type there were people who were nostalgic for, if there were monks nostalgic for transcribing the Bible. I think nostalgia is a relatively recent, and by recent I mean the last few hundred years. But things always seem simpler in hindsight. They weren't. You were just younger and you didn't know as much. I think things always get more complicated the more that winds up in here. Exactly. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It just means you have more to filter through. But nostalgia is good stuff that made you feel good then. But it's all about the remembrance. That's familiar to me.
Yeah,
I've seen this a million times. Oh, cool. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I talked about this in a previous interview that we did. But one thing that's definitely nostalgic to me, besides all the stuff I grew up with, is just spending time with certain family members that I haven't seen in a long time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, when people are special to you, and that's really lovely when you can have that. Looking back at old pictures.
Yeah.
And feeling nostalgic either for a home you used to live in, or a time, or a friend that you had, or a grandparent. Now nostalgia can mean a lot of things, but I think nostalgia has sort of co-opted, or pop culture has co-opted nostalgia a bit. And when people think of things that make them nostalgic, pop culture has a lot to do with it now.
Yeah, and
because we grow up surrounded by it.
And
in the last 100 years, popular culture has really driven the conversation.
And that's probably the main reason why nowadays we have all these reboots and all these different things are coming back.
Well,
because they're things that we grew up with, and they want to introduce them to a new audience, while keeping that same, trying to keep that same magic alive for the people who grew up with it back then.
Familiarity is comforting. Some almost like when you're sick and you have chicken soup that your mom used to make for you. There's a comfort in something familiar. There's a comfort in something you know. Or if you eat the same, I can rely on this peanut butter and jelly sandwich to make me feel good. I can rely on these Oreos because they're always going to be the same. But the thing about reboots is, like with Avenue Q, it was a very hard show to describe to people. But when you do a reboot of something, that's already baked in. If you say we're rebooting Full House. Well, you've seen Full House. You know what that is.
They're talking
it's just going to be a new version of it.
Yeah.
So a lot of that explanation is already there. But I like that there's room for really good new stuff too.
Yeah.
Oh man, I on behalf of everyone, I cannot thank you enough.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
It has been an absolute blast.
I've had fun too. Thanks for all the great questions, and I'm really glad you've enjoyed the stuff I've worked on over the years.
And our puppets in the back, I'm sure have enjoyed your time as well.
Yeah, okay, you're gonna have to introduce the others to me.
Mortimer. Mortimer's the blue one right here.
Okay.
Mine's simple. His name's just Puppet Chris.
And that's Bean.
I like that.
Yeah, Bean.
Nice.
There you are, Bean.
Bean's Bean and Mortimer.
Yeah,
Bean's one of them.
Good.
That's great.
Full House.
They're all fantastic.
We're making Full House both puppets.
There you go.
Puppet Chris is interesting. I got him from one of those old Muppet kits that they used to sell at Toys R Us back in the day.
Yeah. Those are great.
Yeah, me and Matt and
that they
Jakey
came
got
out
ours off Amazon.
Probably 10, 11 years ago now, which is crazy.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
you've had it for that long?
Yeah.
That's why I had to build my own. They didn't. Those puppets like that didn't exist. 30 years ago.
So. Yeah.
I'm very glad that in addition to puppetry, we also had a chance to talk about nostalgia and things.
And that's what the show is all about.
It's fun to talk about nostalgia. Exactly.
It is.
Oh
good stuff. Good stuff out there. And if anyone out there hasn't seen it, it's a lot of that stuff's available. So
makes you think about simpler, easier times.
Simpler times.
Yeah. Thank you to all our viewers and listeners for supporting us
and we appreciate it for
our
continued
wonderful
support in the
episode.
future, and can't wait what you guys will see for the future episodes. But anyway, thank you all so much for watching. Hope you all enjoyed, which we appreciate so much. And glad for me doing this in first place.
Yes.
From all of us here, you are worth it.
Yep.
Stay
And
nostalgic.
Stay nostalgic.
You are worth it.
Rest of your day, and see y'all in the next episode.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
And from the puppets.
And us too.
No, I'm not bringing him out.
He's asleep.
Bring him out next interview.
He's just done.
He's just done.
Yeah.
He's asleep.
Well,
thanks,
so long, everybody.
Yeah, for all of us, see y'all.
You're worth it.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
See you next time on another episode of Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show. Be sure to follow us on social media and stream us wherever you find your favorite podcasts. Bye bye.
This episode is dedicated to a wonderful actor and singer who we very recently lost, Emilio Delgado, also known as Luis on Sesame Street. You will be missed by all.